Welcome again to another Cutting Edge. I'm Mayor Omar Neal, the host of the You Got the Power show, the co-host of the Cutting Edge, and just a pleasure to be here hanging out with you today. This program is brought to you in part by the University of Maryland School of Public Health, and we are here for the first show of 2023 on the Cutting Edge, where we discuss all things health and wellness, COVID-19 and beyond. Today we're going to have an extraordinary show. There are very few people who do not know someone who suffer from diabetes, either in your family or your friends or your coworkers or just someone in your space. And so we're going to really delve into this notion of diabetes, this silent killer, understanding the signs, symptoms, and solutions. We got just a dynamite cast of guests today. Dr. Chastity Bradford, who is the chair of the Department of Biology at Tuskegee University, is going to be joining us. We have Dr. Sunila Mahabadi, who is Associate Professor of Biology at Tuskegee University. We have Dr. Andrew McGlone, who is Executive Medical Director of the Primary Care and Community Medicine at Luminous Health. And of course, we have Levleen Gill, who is President and CEO of the Bethesda Nutrition and Wellness Solution. And then we have Daryl Bradford, who is a probation officer, retired U.S. Army veteran, and he is absolutely a person that we want to talk to because he's living with diabetes. And so we got just a star-studded lineup. Obviously, we're going to have a wonderful dialogue today. Now, I don't do this by myself. I said I was one of the hosts. Well, we have another host. We call him Dr. T amongst his parts. It's Dr. Stephen B. Thomas. He's a professor of the University of Maryland School of Public Health, as well as director of the Maryland Center for Health Equity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a brother from another mother, my friend, my co-host, Dr. Stephen B. Thomas. Hey, Dr. T, how you doing, man?
Oh, Mayor Neal, it's always good when I'm in a space with you. And what a way to start 2023. I actually got away and had some time to reflect. And we need to get that more of that reflective time. Let me just say this. I was in Mexico City, but my mental map of Mexico City was what I saw on CNN. Drugs, killing in the street, all this kind of craziness. That is not what I found. Wow. I discovered a beautiful city. All right.
Wow.
But look what I came home to.
Right.
Mass shootings, police brutality. So yeah. I'm opening up like this because in the barbershop, people need that space to unload and take a deep breath.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Find some solutions because, this kind of stress in a daily life makes you want to go out and do all the things that contribute to type 2 diabetes.
Absolutely. And obviously, we do know that there are contributing factors based on stress, particularly as it relates to, managing diabetes. So we're going to talk about that as well.
Let me just say this.
Good.
Since it's a disease of such great prevalence, and we actually know how to prevent it, right, and the negative consequences. And what a nice pivot for our show in 2023 to be focused on these underlying conditions that make COVID so devastating for our community.
Absolutely. Dr. T, we got a team behind the scene, right?
That's right.
These individuals who make it possible to bring us on and to do all the technical work. Well, the team behind the scene is headed up by Meg Jordan. She's our technical director. Maggie Daly, assistant technical director. Soraya Khan, a social media coordinator. We have Elijah Pugh Jr., sound designer. And of course, these are the individuals who you don't see all the time.
That's right.
Meg is somebody you see with the Public Health Minute. But other than that, we have people behind the scenes. And so we are so appreciative of the people who make this possible each and every time you find us on the show.
Yeah,
So
without them, we'd be just talking to each other, Mayor.
yeah, absolutely. You make sure you join us and follow us on the social media platforms. We're on Facebook, uh, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, and many more. So make sure that you like and subscribe and share with your friends and neighbors and all the relatives and everybody that you know, just in your network. Make sure that you share what we're doing because this is helpful to everybody. Well, Dr. T and me hanging out again. Well,
Here we
let
go.
me say this. Don't forget that you can subscribe to our newsletter, and
That's
that
right.
comes out every week, and it gives you kind of a snapshot of what we've done the previous weeks, but also gives you information about various topics relative to health and wellness. And this is an absolutely wonderful tool that you can use. We also have vignettes of previous guests that we highlight, as well as the previous show. So you never miss a show if you are connected to us via our newsletter. So make sure that you get our newsletter, subscribe to our newsletter so that you can be a part of our family right here on the Cutting Edge. And so it's all good, Dr. T and me hanging out again, man. How you doing?
Well, I think that more than ever, it's so important that we keep the conversation going,
Right,
beyond the COVID fatigue
right.
and recognize that we actually moved the needle in a way that brought more health care to people who were marginalized. And we're capitalizing on that tonight. All of our shows give people the kind of information they can take action on. And I
Right.
like that.
Yeah, man. And I'm excited about this show. Having relatives, family members, um, close relatives, father and brother,
Mm,
father passed, but brother currently has diabetes. Best friend has diabetes.
yep.
And so it has really hit me hard personally.
Hmm.
And so I want to really try to understand for myself and really see what are the cutting edge solutions
That's right.
to addressing the issue of diabetes, particularly in the African American community. Let's bring up our first guest, Chastity, Dr. Chastity Bradford. I met Dr. Bradford uh, just maybe a month ago or so. We were at a function, and we had the best conversation, man, that you can have. It's like I've been knowing Dr. Bradford all of my life. She just has such an approachable spirit. We were talking, and then I said, I don't know why we met, but I know we met for a reason. She chairs the Department of Biology at Tuskegee University. She's done a lot of her work in dealing with hypertension and cardiovascular research and stuff like that. But all of that has a connection to the area of diabetes. And so we are so elated to have my new friend, Dr. Chastity Bradford. Hey, Dr. Bradford, how you doing?
Hello, hello. I am doing well. I'm excited to be in this space with you all and excited to just have a conversation amongst family.
Amongst family.
Yes,
And, the interesting thing is, I think oftentimes, when it comes to issues like diabetes, people kind of say, well, everybody, people have it, people don't have it. We don't really understand what's going on with people. And I think once you know, then you owe, right?
yes,
That's why we need to make sure people know so that they can be helpful to people who may be challenged with diabetes, but at the same time, check themselves to see whether or not they are pre-diabetic at any point, right? And what they can do to mitigate or to reduce their chances of getting diabetes, right? So so how when I say sugars, that's what I remember. Now I don't know about y'all, but diabetes was sugars to me when I grew up, right? Why did they call it that, Dr. Bradford?
Everybody associated it with something sweet, with people eating sweets. So the diet that we were eating, and often eat, contributes to diabetes. And so that's where the sugar came from, the sweet. And then the idea that it would show up in your urine and it would smell sweet. So that's where the sugar came from. And a lot of people still call it sugar. So you go
Right.
into the community and you don't say diabetes or glucose, you say diabetes, you may not say glucose levels, you're gonna say sugar. That's what we say.
Right.
We
Right.
connect.
You know,
Yeah.
Dr. Bradford, I was
Yes.
looking at your bio, and thank you so much for coming on. And you've done work in the Black Belt.
Yes.
Now, if I were to say to any of my public health students, what's the Black Belt? They would come back with a litany of all the things killing people. But that's somebody's neighborhood. That's somebody's community. Tell us something maybe we don't know about the Black Belt.
The Black Belt is home for me. And it's home for a lot of people that live from regions of Virginia all the way through Texas. That's the Black Belt. And one of the things you may not think about the Black Belt is it's a lot of people of color live in this space. This is where we found ourselves. And this is where we live. This is where we are raising our children. And you have a lot of Black physicians in the Black Belt that are doing good work. So oftentimes, like you said, people don't really think about the Black Belt from that perspective, but that is home for a lot of us. And there are a lot of conditions like diabetes and hypertension that are highly prevalent in the Black Belt. And that's why I do the work that I do.
Yeah.
Well, I can see the pride that comes from that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Yes, see.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so great. Let's bring up our next guest, another Tuskegee person, Dr. Sunila Mahavani. She is associate professor of biology at Tuskegee University. I was talking with Dr. Bradford, and she was just touting Dr. Mahavani. She said she has just cutting edge information about diabetes, and she was so excited about her. I said, let's get her. And she said, I'm going to run over to her office now and get her now. And so she texted me right back and told me that Dr. Mahavani was going to join us. Just from her spirit and just meeting her just now, I know that she is going to really fit right into the family. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our new family member, Dr. Sunila Mahavani. How are you doing, Dr. Mahavani?
Welcome.
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much, Mayor Nee.
Let me say this. You know, I don't know if y'all noticed this theme, Tuskegee. I gave it away. I have such an affinity for Tuskegee. I'm a graduate of Tuskegee University, and this is my home, served as mayor of the city. So I'm so proud of Tuskegee University and the diversity, if you notice, of its faculty and staff and student body. And so, we are appreciative to have you. Now, I don't know, you have impressed Dr. Bradford, but you have her. I just want you to know, and she's not paying me to say this. She really respect the work that you do. Tell us a little bit about how you got into working with diabetes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And gave me as a wonderful family. And then I would really appreciate, and then thank you to Dr. Bradford. Gave me an opportunity to introduce all of you. And I'm very happy and then very delighted to give the information about the diabetes, how I joined. First of all, I came from India as a married woman, joined with my husband. He is a physician and he always take care about the diabetic patients. He's a podiatrist. And then I can see the people will come to his clinic and have a lot of problems with the feet. And then he used to explain to them. And then I was really interested in going into the medical school when I was in child, but it's difficult for me to get the access, because I grown up in a very small village where there is a discrimination for the girls to go for the higher education.
Mhm.
And then after I
Wow.
came here, I realized I need to go and then move on to my higher education. My parents helped me a lot. They supported me a lot because of my parents and then my husband and my son and my sisters. I'm here today.
Wonderful.
Mm.
I am a kind of a family oriented person, and for family is for me, it doesn't matter it's a which race, which the nation and everything, everybody is a family for me. And thank you for understanding me. Also, that's what I started as a technician in Virginia Commonwealth University. There people will use as doing the research on the gastrointestinal motility, means kind of regular pathways in the gastrointestinal. And then I was involving doing the research. I got more interested. And when I went to the seminars, then we started with there is a complication with the diabetes. Let's
Mm.
start with the diabetic, what is going on, and then what happened with the diabetes. Actually, what is the diabetes? That's what it came in my mind. Then I find out is a diabetes is a long-term health issue
Mm.
that affects how your body changes food into energy.
Mm.
The majority of the food what you eat is changed into sugar. Now I can say it's a glucose by your body and released into, means it goes into your bloodstream. That's why we call is a high blood glucose levels. Okay, because the glucose or sugars levels will stay inside your bloodstream. That's why it's a high glucose levels.
So now we know why we call it sugar now. So they you know, grandmama was not far off, Dr.
No.
Mahavani, right? Grandmama wasn't far off. I want to keep this conversation going. Let me introduce everybody else. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for laying it out and for giving us a background on you. Dr. Andrew McGlone, an MD, is an executive director, medical director for primary care and community medicine at Luminous Health. You know, he is in the Baltimore, he's a native of Baltimore, hangs out in that area. And Dr. T was telling me about him. And so I'm so happy to have him join us. He attended the University of Maryland School of Medicine. So he's like family to us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Andrew McGlone. Hey, Doc, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
And you know, you talk about family, and he's a family medicine doc.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
And that's what it's all about. Yeah.
I just want to say something about the Luminous family, because I serve on the board of the foundation, and I reached out for content expertise for our show tonight, and you came with such high recommendations. I'm so glad that you had the time to join us, and for this audience to know that it was Luminous Doctors Community Hospital that was our community clinical partner in providing the very first COVID vaccines in barbershops and salons anywhere in the country. So welcome, Luminous Health, to the table.
Absolutely. Well, Doc, it's good to have you with us. You know, this thing of understanding, and it was Dr. Mahavani that said that, you know, this is a long term thing, that people live with this. And, you know, and it's difficult to understand how certain people have it and how others don't. I want to kind of talk about, is this transferred from your family members? Is it you know, is it something that you can get from your parents, or is it something that you attain through your lifestyle and your diet and all of that, or both? What is that?
Yes, no, that's a really great question. Really, the best answer is it's both. And obviously that mixture will be different, depending on the person. But absolutely, we certainly know that patients may have a genetic predisposition to diabetes. Usually, often you'll hear it may run in my family, or I have, a family member who has diabetes. Secondly, really, there's a lot of environmental factors that attribute to diabetes, and most commonly would be the diet that we are all exposed to. And that diet, really, if you look back over the last 30, 40 years, really has changed. And really, a lot of that is attributed to why you see diabetes and pre-diabetes really hitting exponential levels in our population. It's really quite stark compared to the generations and generations before us who really ate in a different way, and lived their lives in a slightly different way as well. So that combination of predisposition and the foods that are available to eat have really increased it in our population. And the numbers are staggering when you combine diabetics and pre-diabetics in our population.
Yeah, I was thinking about culture, Dr. McClone. So, because certain people in certain cultures eat certain foods, right? And so, if we are disproportionately impacted, is it something in the culture of Black people and the foods that we eat that may give more impetus to our contracting diabetes?
Well, specifically, I think that that certainly when you look at the types of food anyone eats, what you really have to pay attention to, and Dr. Mahavati, sort of intimated this, is that really we're talking about where there's a high carbohydrate or sugar content, and then the more that sugar or that carbohydrate is processed, is where you see the impact of that. So I always tell patients, no one ever got diabetes from eating fruits and vegetables. I will stand by that statement. But certainly it's well documented that any community that experiences a food desert, which we know are all over our communities, where you don't have access to good foods, fruits and vegetables, etc. And obviously, there's a lot of easy, high carbohydrate processed foods. You can see any sort of impact on that. But certainly, any type of food that has that high sugar, high processed carbohydrate mix, puts any of us really at risk for diabetes.
So,
Man, you gonna
Dr.
make me go ahead. He gonna
I
make me
was gonna-
throw my cake away, man.
I was just going to say,
I just got a red velvet cake, man, and he gonna make me throw it out there.
all things in moderation. Well, being back, I've watched more TV than when I was away on vacation, and all of these sports stars are pushing the very scrumptious food you're describing that's causing the diabetes, and it's a real issue. We got food deserts on the table. We got the fast food industry, and we got some more guests we have to bring up here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's bring up our next guest, Ms. Levleen Gill. Again, she is the president and the CEO of the Bethesda Nutrition and Wellness Solutions. So she deals with nutrition. We're talking about what you eat. The first show that I did, Dr. T, on the You Got the Power show is Meals That Heal, the
Okay.
relationship between what you eat and how you feel.
Oh,
Right.
I
And
love
so
that title.
that was my first show. And so to bring a nutritionist, somebody who deals with dietetics and understanding that relationship to health is absolutely the connection that we need. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming another family member, Miss Levleen Gill. Hey, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you all?
Doing wonderful, wonderful. We know that now. I know, Dr. McClone and Dr. Mahavati. I mean, you all have convinced me that we have to really revisit our diet, right? And so, Ms. Gill, tell me about diet and its relationship to diabetes.
So diet is really critical, as Dr. McGlone and Dr. Mahawati said earlier, to diabetes. But here's the thing. We get a lot of information about diet. That's bad, that's processed, you can't eat that, that gives you sugar. We got a lot of information out there. But as an individual, how do we process that information, right? So as you said, Mayor, so they're going to throw out my velvet cake here. Now, if I came, you know, I'm a registered dietitian, and the first thing you know, oh, she's going to throw out my cake. That's just a bad start.
Right. Who let her in?
Right, we'll let her in. It's about behavior change. These
All
are
right.
learned behaviors.
Wow.
Food we've been exposed to from the time we are a toddler, right? All the way. Now I go to Dr. McGlone and he's going to tell me, you know, that cake, that candy you're having, throw it out. You're not going to have it. But I'm not going to do it. I know it's bad for me. But why am I not going to do it? Because I don't understand the why.
Mm.
Okay.
Wow.
Why? And
Right.
how does that interfere with my life?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'll give you an example. My grandmother, diabetes is very dear to my heart. Why? And why am I a dietitian today? My grandmother had diabetes and it was called sugar in our house.
Okay.
And Dr. Mahawati would probably know the food I'm going to refer to. Her favorite food was called jalebi. It's an
Okay.
Indian sweet.
All right.
All right. She would not give it up. And she said, I don't care. My doctor says I can't have this. I am going to. He tells me sugar is going to be 500. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm still alive.
There you go.
Right? So she continued to have that. It's the why. Now, if somebody had talked to her
Mm.
and say, you know, your sugar, if it goes high, if you go blind, you won't be able to play with your grandchildren.
There you go.
Okay. You won't be able to go for your vacation with your husband. You will have pain, you know, putting it in those words where
Okay.
somebody can understand to be able to give that impetus for behavior change, right? That
Mm.
is what is key.
Mm.
We cannot wag that, you know, that stick and say, you got to do this. We got the information, people
Right.
have. That's what we deal every day is about behavior change. Because if you want to eat, and I tell if you want to eat that cake, you want to eat that candy, how and when can you figure it out in your diet? Because people are not going to give those things up, but they need to know there's a place for it. But that's not going to be a meal.
Right.
So moderation, you're telling me moderation is critical even in your diet.
And
Right.
understanding where somebody is coming from.
Right.
That is key.
Right. Well, let's see where somebody's coming from who actually deals with this on a daily basis. Let's
Every
bring up
day.
Daryl Bradford. He is the person that we really wanted to have him on. Daryl Bradford is a probation officer, retired U.S. Army veteran, and he's a person who's actually living with diabetes. Mr. Bradford, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. You know, we people can talk from an academic perspective, but your lived experience is that's more important than anything anybody else can say, right? So talk a little bit. Well, thank you. That's the first thing I want to say. Talk a little bit about that first time that you recognized or you were told that you had diabetes, and take me back to that space.
Okay, this was 2008. I've probably been discharged from the service for about a year, maybe. I was working at a factory and I noticed that I kept going to the bathroom. And I used to take my daughter to the movies, and within that 1 hour and a half movie, we probably stopped and went to the bathroom probably like 3 or 4 times. I I wore glasses then, but my vision got blurry. So when my mom said you need to go to the doctor, get your sugar checked. Both of my parents are diabetics. So I did, and I was diagnosed with diabetes. I thought my world was about to end, because they put me in the hospital for a few days because of the range of my blood sugars at that time. I didn't have no idea of how to take care of it and what to do and things of that nature. But I did sit down with a dietitian at that time and talking to my parents. I got medication, got it, insulin and metformin. And at that time, I was doing glipizide as well. So they had me on 3 different medications for. Now, even though I was like, well, I'm taking medicine so I can keep my blood sugar low and I can eat what I want. And I just take my medicine and keep it low. And I did that for a good little while, I did it for a good little while. Then I noticed how my father started to deteriorate from his diabetes. And I'm like, I don't want to go through what my father's going through at that time. So it was around January 2021, and I learned about the keto diet. So that's when I got on keto, and that's probably the best thing I did because it took me off insulin. I cut my metformin in half. Instead of 1,000, I'm doing 500 milligrams twice a day. So, and I lost a ton of weight. So I'm gonna say 2021, I weighed in the beginning about 260, 265.
Wow.
Now I'm down to 185, 190.
Wow.
Now I work out at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow.
So I'm in a better headspace. I wish I had this motivation when I was in the military when I do all that running, but now I like running. I'm in my 40s. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's 2008 was my hard time.
So, Mr. Bradford, first of all, thank you so much for sharing the story and how it can slip up on you. How the little things can slip up on you, and all of a sudden you're finding diagnosed with the actual diabetes. So my question is, you had to do that suffering to make the transition, and now you're describing how you're in a much better place. And imagine the brothers and sisters sitting in the barbershop and salon who are heading that direction by virtue of what they eat and their weight and what we know about prediabetes. Is there a message that can help people avoid the suffering before they start taking action?
Yes. The message is, what do you have to do to live longer? And sometimes we look at things and we don't look at it as a perspective of doing this for myself and doing this for them. This is that. You got one special person, that you want to do it for, and that could be your motivation. So, for instance, be my daughter. I want to be here for her forever if I could be. But she's my motivation. She always has been. So because of her, it's probably my primary reason why I decided to get better. Because I know having to deal with my father and do things for him that you would think you would never do for another man, per se, change your perspective on things. So find that reason to continue going. Don't give up on it.
Okay.
Don't give up. It's a hard ride. But you got to wear that seatbelt and keep the helmet on.
Absolutely.
Ride.
I love your testimony.
Thank you, Dr. Bradford. We want to talk a little bit about obesity, and because it's very prevalent in And let's be clear, it's prevalent in all communities, but we are speaking with specificity to the African American community because that's primarily who we cater to in this on the show. How much does being overweight correlate with diabetes?
There's a strong correlation between obesity and diabetes. And one of the things that, and I know Live Lean will echo, is weight loss is one of those things that people can do, to address that issue of obesity, and finding, like Mr. Bradford said, finding that motivation, and then finding those tools that work for you on your journey for weight loss. One of the programs that we had in the Black Belt community was talking with families at night from 6 to 7 p.m. We would talk with families, that's the mom or the guardians and the children, and we just talk about, the food packages that they had at their home. So we say, go look at the back of your packages and read the labels. So, when it comes to being overweight and obesity, that's a major driver for diabetes and a lot of these disorders that we deal with in these communities. Yeah. And our community.
So Mayor, isn't it interesting? We've heard two like really powerful examples of how to get behavior change.
Yeah.
Mr. Bradford's testimony and Dr. Bradford, we talked to the people about reading the label as a group, not an admonition, but an activity.
Right.
Neither
But-
one of those would you write on a prescription.
Yeah,
That's my
Doc,
point.
Doc, let me say this, and this, I want this to be conversational. I go into schools, high schools,
Mhm.
and I'm seeing vending machines
Yes.
with sodas and cookies and candy.
All those
And
things.
vending machines,
Okay.
right? Right. And so what children do, they get their little money and they go to the vending machines as they go from class to class, and they eat all kinds of,
Yeah.
things that we know may contribute to diabetes.
Why would we do
So-
that?
So the question is, if we know what contributes to diabetes, why aren't we talking to
Come on.
the Board of Education and the superintendents and the different people like
All
that?
right.
Let me go, Dr. Mahavani. Do we? I know that's a hard question, but do we know what causes diabetes? Don't we?
There are 3 types of diabetes. It's a type 1, type 2, and type 3. The type 1 is an autoimmune disease. What that means is the body doesn't recognize it's your own cells or it is foreign cells. And then by mistakenly, it will attack your own cells. That's why it doesn't produce the insulin. Insulin is a major part of the controlling the diabetes. And then it will release from pancreas. The pancreas is located behind the stomach. And this one is generally, it will come from the genetic, if the family history will come. And it is only for childhood, means it's up to young age. I think Dr. McGlone will give the correct answer because I'm not a physician. But the type 2 diabetic depends on environmental factors. And it leads to type 2 diabetic with either smoking and then eating with the heavily processed food and then heavy sugar contents drinks. If you can reduce, then you can control your type 2 diabetes. The type 2 diabetes, generally it will come after age 50 years old. Then another type of the diabetes is gestational. It's only for women. When they are pregnant and they will get the diabetes. But definitely the gestational diabetes can go away after the baby will born. But the baby has a higher risk of chances of the diabetes.
Wow.
But later on, these pregnant women, they don't have diabetes for certain time. Maybe it could be, or it may not be. They will lead to type 2 diabetes. That's why when you are pregnant, make sure you have to eat healthy food.
Yes.
Okay, and think about your baby's healthy also.
Yeah.
And I'm not a physician, but definitely Dr. McGlone will give the proper answers for these things.
Good. You know, I'm glad that you threw the ball to Dr. McGlone. So that's where we're going. You know, because you know, Dr. Mahavani said two things. She said smoking, right? Right. And she talked about, and I'm glad Dr. Ritter's I'm going to bring Dr. Ritter in with us because she's our resident gynecologist. Please handle her before we bring her in. But Dr. McGlone, smoking, because, you know, Dr. Mahavani said smoking is a contributor to diabetes. You don't think about that. And I'm sure that if smoking is, then excessive alcohol may also have some bearing. Am I off by saying that?
No, you're certainly correct. You know, those are two things that you know, bring a lot of inflammation in our bodies. Diabetes is really the biggest challenge to diabetes is inflammation in your body. And really, just to talk about it, you know, that you know, this being called, you know, a silent killer is that, you know, it's really, so you're talking about it when you're inflamed, increased risks of strokes, increased risks of heart attacks, increased risk of kidney disease, increased risk of cancer. So the list just goes on and on, you know, all the things that that, you know, are the top in the top 10 killers of all of us in the United States are all, you know, all those lists. So absolutely, you know, inflammation, you know, can lead to it. Certainly alcohol, again, is full of sugar. It's full of carbohydrates. And again, it is not, you know, not going to be conducive. I want to sort of put an exclamation point on what you'd said earlier, which is that you know, we know what causes that. It's really, you know, we're talking really type 2 diabetes. You know, Dr. Mahavati did a great job explaining, you know, type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune condition. That's a much smaller slice of diabetes in our population. Type 2 diabetes is what we're talking about here, and we know that you know, inactivity, lack of exercise, and then you know, exposure to, again, food types that are high in sugar, high in processed carbohydrates, and again, when you see vending machines and you see our kids eating them, we know where that's headed, and that's really challenging. And I think it's been hard. And I think that as a society, even as the parent, you have to start to make those decisions. You know, and we're all raised on these types of foods are comfort foods for us. That they're,
Right.
you know, it was a great point that, you know, that it's habit and behavior, and, you know, we're all used to this, and you know, we comfort other people through food oftentimes too. And so it's really paying attention to how it's in our society and how we notice it. But certainly, you know, the school system that you pointed out, the issues of vending machines at schools, I know is really a problem and a future problem if we don't do something about it.
I mean, if we could stay there just a moment.
Okay,
It
go
was
ahead.
just really curious as I heard Mr. Bradford describe how he was diagnosed, got on his meds, and realized he didn't have to give up some of those good food habits as long as he kept his meds up. He tried to play with it for a little bit, like playing with fire. And so I'm wondering, Doc, when you see that, you know, they finally get to you, you finally diagnose them, you finally give them a prescription, but sometimes the help on that behavior change part is kind of disconnected. And maybe you and Levine can tell me if I'm wrong there, and how we might do a better job connecting it, because what a difference it's making. Just look at Mr. Bradford.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I would comment. It's a great point, and I would say, you know, thank you for sharing your story, Mr. Bradford, because it's inspirational, and people can, as he can do an amazing job beating diabetes. You don't always have to use medications, and I think that it's important that us in the medical community lead with that. And that's how we try to start all of our conversations, is about, educating, our patients about exercise. Why does exercise matter? Why does nutrition matter? Again, and I can certainly turn it over to our nutritionist who can echo that. But it takes a team. And I also think it really takes, and it's important, and I think this is something of the medical community, it's something that we've tried to change in our health system, is that, we need to treat diabetes like the disease that it is. It's a serious illness. It's inflamed, and we need to be very much more aggressive with it. We're much more aggressive about preventing it. And so we try to really to do that in our, and it takes a lot of our partners in our health system to do that.
So I can assume there's no vending machines in Luminous Health System, right?
Well, maybe not. Maybe so.
We try to get as many of them out as possible.
Good.
Let me say this. One of the things that Mr. Bradford said that I want to make sure, because you got a lot of people get over 50 and 60 years old who use the restroom or bathroom regularly. Our eyesight goes dim when you get older as well. And so people will start saying, well, maybe that's diabetes. Is there something to the fact that there are certain things that happen to older men with prostate that cause for them not to empty their bladder fully and use the restroom more frequently that may not be attributed to diabetes? Is that possible, Dr. McGlone?
Yes, that's correct. What you're describing is, changes in men's prostates usually will lead to increased urinary frequency, which doesn't, can be a separate condition. Certainly, increased urinary frequency too. If you have a lot of sugar in your urine, it tends to make you go to the bathroom a lot too. So certainly two similar presenting symptoms with very different causes, and certainly, a visit to any, your local primary care provider can help differentiate that too. And again, help you once that differentiation is made, improve that condition.
Yeah.
Two conditions that can be helped with diet, right? Right, Ms. Gill?
Look like it's in our hands. So Doc, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Let me do this. Ms. Gill, you on deck. Let's bring up Dr. Carol Ritter, because Dr. Mahavani said something that I want to engage Dr. Ritter. Hey, Dr. Ritter, how are you doing? Happy New Year to you.
Hi, Happy New Year. It's great to see you.
Good.
I'm so glad you brought up prostates, because then that allows me to talk about the other side of gender side. As a gynecologist, I just had a conversation today with a 69-year-old woman who wanted to talk to me about her menopause symptoms. And as anyone knows, who's a woman, that you don't develop menopause symptoms at 69, but her symptoms were just like it: hot flashes, irritability, weight gain, urinary frequency. She was short-tempered. And I started, it was a telehealth, which I'm going to tell you why that was interesting, because I was like talking to her. I was like, well, what are your sugars doing? She's on insulin and she's on metformin, and she's like, oh, they're all over the place. And I'm supposed to have cataract surgery tomorrow, but they canceled it because my sugars are too high. Like, what are so, so anyway, I said, so, okay, so let's talk about your diet. What are you, who shops for you? Does anybody else live in the house with you? And she says, yes. And does he shop for you? And I hear him in the background then. Okay. And so, well, if he's like shopping for you and he's buying all these sugary stuff, tell him to lock it in a cabinet and keep it away from you. He's not my patient, so I could say that. I could tell him to eat healthy too, but, and then you make a list of what you need, and you need more protein, and you need, and so we made a list, and she talked about what she couldn't eat. I said, you could eat apples. No, I can't eat apples because of my teeth, And so
Wow.
like I said, so it was just, I was like I was taking your job, Gil, the nutritionist here, because we don't usually talk about that, but it's a I wasn't going to give her estrogen for her symptoms. It wasn't going to help. She had
Right.
sugar problems, right?
Right.
But,
Right.
and then back to the other side of it as gestational diabetes, it's so interesting because in utero, you're right. The sugar affects you. And they have studies that show that it actually lays down more fat cells, liposomes in the infant's body.
Wow.
Wow.
So when the baby is born, it has more fat cells. It's never going to get rid of them. So we have an epidemic now of obesity in the United States since the 1970s when they subsidized corn, and we have corn in everything. So it's a structural problem that we have, trying to prevent diabetes. You have to look at the ingredients in everything you buy because there's corn fructose, and that it's hidden in everything because I think it was Secretary Butts, which is a great name for Nixon's Secretary of Agriculture, who he wanted to have a war on starvation. He didn't want anybody to die. He wanted cheap food. So he subsidized the corn farmers, and we have so much corn, it's in everything. So, we do have, it's like an interesting process to watch from a OBGYN point of view, because the babies got bigger at the 70s when the parents
that's true.
started eating more of the processed food that we have in America.
Wow.
So it's an ongoing battle, and at the
From
same
birth
time,
to menopause. There you go. No,
absolutely, and why it's so difficult on the diet side, and the fat shaming. Nobody wants fat shaming. I've seen more commercials with, just full-bodied people than ever. So there's been a big transition there. So it's got to be more than looks that would be the motivator. That's what I like what Mr. Bradford talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me say this, because let me say this. I'm really enjoying this conversation. I want you all to know I'm learning so much. But Dr. McGlone said that fruits and vegetables never gave you diabetes. But Ms. Gill, I want to ask you a question. Fruits are sweet as well, right? So why don't they give you diabetes when my Coca-Cola I don't want to question my doctor here, but my Coca-Cola just as sweet as it's just
Your mango
kind of sweet. Yeah.
Well,
help me out with that.
oh, for sure. That's an easy one because first of all, nobody eats the amount of fruit that they need to on a daily basis to begin with. So we're not even close to that being a contributor for sugar, right? So the soda, on the other hand, people are gulping cans of those, the big gulp, the triple gulp, or whatever, which is part of the diet, but the fruits are not. Now, if they started drinking those big smoothies of sugar, right, of the fruit with 3 or 4 of those, well, then we'll be talking a different story than fruit will be. So it really depends. People are not consuming the fruit and vegetables that are even recommended. The normal amount of when we are asking our patients or talking to them and asking, they may be consuming combined fruit and vegetable, maybe 2 servings a day, right? Now just think about it. That's like very little. And that's not even in the guideline. Like Mr. Bradford said, he changed. Something motivated him. He changed. He got up the medication. And probably, yes, he did keto, but it was a whole lifestyle change that he made. So I don't think there's one thing which is a contributor. We got to look at the food as a whole. And as Dr. Ritter said, the things that are hidden in there, the corn, where we are having some of these things over and over again, that becomes the problem. That really becomes the problem. It's not one thing or the other. The vending machines in schools, we would all like to have those out, but well, the kids will go somewhere else and get those. If they go to the community center, if they are there, they'll get them. I guess it's the education, and if they are taught, if it doesn't become that much of a taboo, you can't have it. that can't, as you single out a toddler or a kid, you tell them you cannot do that. You think you're going to stop them? No. And that's what it is. We have got to figure out, how do we communicate that it becomes that you bring them on with you. And it's almost just like you're talking to your teenager, your toddler. That's really how do you convince them to bring them on board? The
You know, we
no
have-
is not the answer.
Yeah, wow. You know, let's see if we can do this. I want to tee up the public health minute, because Meg has something about diabetes that kind of put it where the cows can get it as well. So if Meg, if you can bring up the public health minute, and let's see if we can do that. And then I want to get a pulse of how we feel. Because you know, we are in this together. I want
That's right.
everybody to be healthy, and we have to support each other through this process, right? So as we get information to each other, then we also going to be there to support you, not just in this show, but after the show as well. Meg, the public health minute.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Good evening. So we are going to open up tonight, as we always do, by coming back to COVID. We are still in the middle of a pandemic. At this point, 102 million people in the US have gotten COVID since the very beginning, and 1,099,000 have died COVID-19. 229 million Americans have gotten initially vaccinated. That's not much different than the month when I talked to you last. But 50 million Americans have gotten boosters, which is only a fifth about. So if you haven't gotten your updated booster, I will go ahead and do that as quickly as you can. Next slide, please, Maggie. Let's look at where we are across the country with numbers. There are, let's see, 1,010 counties that are in that medium range, which means that adults who are at risk for COVID need to put their masks back on, and so does everyone else in their household that they interact with. There are 196 counties in the country where we are back at high, and that means that all people in public spaces should put their masks back on. Next, please, Maggie. Okay, so for the public health minute today, we're going to talk about diabetes. And as I was preparing this, I was thinking about something that I was curious about. Next, please, because, you know, you hear a lot that you should exercise and that exercise is really good for you. And, you know, when you have diabetes, you need to exercise. And I'm like, why? Specifically, why does it matter that you exercise or you don't when you have diabetes? So I wanted to look into this. Next, please. Okay, so we've had a pretty good overview of diabetes, but I'm going to go through this quickly so we're all on the same page. So when you eat food, it goes through your digestive system and it turns into sugar in your guts, right? So your blood picks up all the sugar and the vitamins, everything else you eat. That's where you get your vitamin C. That's where you get your iron. That's where you get everything, right? Comes out of your guts into your blood. And so now it's floating around in your blood. Takes about anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. Next, please, Maggie. Okay, so the sugar's in there and it can't stay in there. Why? Because the sugar in your blood rips up your veins. It's physically, it's bad for the cells in your skin, right, in your veins. It can make weaknesses where plaques can build up, just like in heart disease. And the sugar is not supposed to be there, and it is not sitting in there neutral. It is attaching to other things that you have in your blood, like fat, like other proteins, things like that. And they're forming these globules that aren't supposed to be in your body. Dr. McGlone was talking about autoimmune problems from diabetes. Your body is sensing all this junk that's in your blood, and that's part of it, and it's trying to grab it and filter it out. That's why we get that high inflammation with diabetes. Next, please, Maggie. So your body knows it can't have it in there, so it makes the insulin. Insulin is the toll that the sugar pays to come into your muscles, right? So the sugar can't get into your muscles alone. It's got to have insulin with it, right? Next, please, Maggie. So you have your sugar, you have your insulin, and when they're coming in at the same time, your muscles can pull it in. And your muscles, when you're exercising, are wanting to pull in that sugar more and more and more and burn it because they need it. So if you have diabetes, right, why is exercising important? Because you are trying to pull the sugar from your body, from your blood into your muscles more, right? The other thing I wanted to mention that Mr. Bradford brought up keto. We've talked about keto a couple times. And I wanted to do a sidebar on that because what we're meaning by keto, you can burn sugar like this, or you can burn fat like this. In keto, you're trying to keep your sugar low and you're trying to focus on burning fat more, right? So it's going to keep the sugar, you have less sugar in your body and you're pulling less of it out of storage to burn. I just want to put that out there when we talk about keto and keto diets. Next, please. So I did not put gestational diabetes on here because honestly, I forgot about it and I'm sorry. But when we think about it, what's going on with diabetes? Okay, when you have type 1 diabetes, why is the sugar floating around and around and around in your body? Because you've got insufficient funds on your insulin. Not enough in there, right? That's why you can do the injections of insulin. And that's one of the main treatments for type 1 diabetes. And then in type 2, what can happen is that insulin resistance. So you have insulin and it's running around in your body, but the receptors that are pulling in the insulin and the glucose into your muscles are not accepting the insulin. That card is declined, right? It's available, but it's not working right now. Next, please, Maggie. So why is exercise one of the things they tell you to do when you get diabetes? Because exercising is literally cleaning out your blood. The sugar that's in there is damaging, and exercise is a way of pulling it out. That's also, we were talking about weight loss. Fat tissue in your body isn't doing nothing. Fat tissue in your body makes hormones and it makes chemicals too. So if you have more fat tissue in your body, it can mess with your hormones and it changes how sensitive your body is to insulin. So I guess we got to exercise.
Dog.
I know.
Dog. We got to do
I'm
it.
sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mayor, I have to say this, and
Thanks, Meg.
thank you so
Yep.
much, Meg. I want to say this to the mayor and to everybody here. When we talk about how do you break it down where the cows can get it? You hear the mayor say that a lot.
Yeah.
But what you just heard from where I'm sitting, we could talk about it in the barbershop and people would get it.
Right.
And we don't have enough information at that level so people understand how their bodies work. So that's one of the things that we do on this show is to create those kinds of components that can be easily distributed. So once again, thank you so much, Meg. And I'm eager to hear what our panelists and some of our guests we're going to bring up think.
Yeah. You know what I want to do is bring up Mike a second. Mike Dynamite Brown. You know, and we have people who are in the barbershop. He's a master barber.
There you go.
He's not just a barber. He's a master barber, one of the best there is anywhere in the United States world kingdom. I mean, Mike Dynamite Brown, man, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How's everyone doing?
Doing great. You got a question?
I do. Dr. McGlone, we have so many myths in the barbershop. One of them is about alcohol. So you were drinking. So you were just talking about alcohol. So the myth in the barbershop is that if you drink a good tequila, it's made with agave. Your body doesn't register it as sugar. So is tequila a healthier drink to drink, or is that just a myth, or is it all the same?
I'm going to give that a myth tag. You know, the fundamental sort of X's and O's of alcohol is that it's essentially a sugar, you know, and it depending on what it comes from, ultimately it gets broken down into those sort of particles. Certainly, alcohols can be made all kinds of ways, whether they're manufactured or obviously in this case from the agave plant. But yeah, I would say that it'd be great if that were true, but I can't say that it is. And I think that people forget because a lot of times we say diabetes, we say sugar, we think sweet, but we forget about it's really carbohydrates. They're just put together in a different way, but ultimately it's a glucose molecule, a sugar molecule. And so, we have to account for any of those things that we put in our body. So again, in moderation, it's a different discussion. The only other thing too, that alcohol does some interesting things to your liver, oftentimes can sort of delay, interfere with your body's natural release of energy, and oftentimes makes people hungry. So a lot of times they'll eat more or do other things. But yeah, no, it's a great question. I wish that were true.
Hey,
Now
Mayor.
you could go back and tell the brothers, hey, man, that ain't true.
Mike, we don't like you. We don't like you anymore.
Yeah, they
True.
go dish you, man. Hey,
Forget
man,
it.
you can't tell them that, man.
Get an exercise bike in the barbershop. Hey, Mayor, 2023. I can't believe how time is flying. We got to get a pulse beat.
Oh
but
yeah,
keep this conversation going.
Let's do this, Dr. T. Tee it up.
So one of the things throughout the pandemic we asked people to think of a word that best describes how you're feeling right now at this moment. And we're still in a pandemic, but we're in a different moment in the pandemic. Write that word in the chat. Those of you out in cyberspace can do it in the Q&A box, and then keep us putting as many words as possible for the next 60 seconds. So just keep putting those words in. Don't worry about spelling.
Yeah, we
Just
got
keep
the
putting
spelling.
those words in.
Just what do you feel right now? That's it.
And the team will create a cloud, and we'll let that cloud be help us understand how we're feeling, and maybe there's some silver linings there. You never know. So keep those words coming. So we just busted a myth, and it will be very interesting. In fact, I think that the more of those things that can come to a space like this, and you can get feedback from people you trust,
Right.
I think that's how you change the culture.
Well, one of the things too, Dr. T, is when people get the proper information, and I talk about this oftentimes, that when people get the proper information, they naturally gravitate to take care of themselves, right? Like with Mr. Bradford, right? He got some information. And he also, this is another thing that Mr. Bradford, you have really helped us. Really, I want you to know, brother, man, thank you so much, right?
Yes.
He said he had a reason to live, right? I have a daughter, right? And if I said I had a reason to live, she would be my reason for living as well, right? If anybody who has somebody who, when you look at them, it just lightens your heart.
That's right.
Right. That's a reason to live.
Right.
And so people need to find something within whatever your space is, find a reason to live, and then gravitate to take care of yourself. Not for you, but for them. Yeah.
That's right. And keep those words coming out. And I'm looking at Ms. Gill and realizing that, as the mayor is saying, once they have that cue to action, they need to be on the right path.
Yeah,
because there's so many myths out there around diet and things. People get confused.
This is what I want to do. Let's see if we can get to Miss Gill and just tell us, what should I eat? Tell me what I should eat. It's because hey,
no admonishments.
Just lay it out. You're not gonna hurt my feelings, right? Tell me what I should eat.
Well, your diet should consist of fruits and vegetables. Okay. Healthy carbs.
What's a carb? A new dance?
Carbohydrates, let's say, right? So not eating like processed, pasta or rice all the time. It's in huge quantities, or Cheetos from a bag, but having something like oatmeal, quinoa, something that is more complex and that will keep you more drinking water. A lot of, how much water do you drink in a day? That is really key because it keeps you hydrated. And that is really key. Those are really the kind of things that, and sugar, those candy, those cakes, special days for that when you're going to have, and how much. Like I have every day at 3 o'clock, between 3 and 4 p.m., a piece of dark chocolate, and I love my chocolate. So you can still have those things. It's just, I don't have like a bowl of chocolate.
Hold up, you just said a piece of chocolate like that. Hey, that ain't no chocolate.
Well, it's rude.
That is,
That
But you have
you
a
can't even
sweet
call that chocolate. That's just a lit. That ain't no chocolate.
that is a chocolate, but you still get it. You get the sweet, you get the,
That's
what
right.
you want. But you know, you're not going to sit there and eat a bowl of chocolate.
Yeah.
You're not going to eat a bowl of
The
chocolate.
whole bowl of
Then
kisses.
we'll be lining up in Dr. McGlone's clinic, right? So, and then he'll be sending you back right to me. But
Right.
those, you know, that's what fruit and vegetables, starting that, having a base of complex carbohydrates, drinking plenty of water and making sure that those saturated fats, which are, you know, like heavy amounts of beef, and you're not having that can really affect your heart or cause other things. You're not having that. That's really what you want to make sure that you have. Fruits and vegetables to make that your base. Start with that.
So,
won't
so if you came into a black belt neighborhood, and help me out, Dr. Bradford, you came to a black belt neighborhood, went into a typical home and opened up the refrigerator and you saw whole milk. I have a question for you. Was just simply changing that from whole milk to skim make a difference? Are there little things that people can do that can make a big difference?
You can go from whole milk, baby steps, to 2%.
Okay.
Instead of going to skim, because the difference between the taste from whole milk to skim is a lot, right? You got to get used to the taste first. And you go from whole milk to 2%, you get used to that, then you go to your 1% or your skim. But if I'm going to tell you to go from whole milk to skim milk, you're not going to do it.
But if we just stayed in that little category of milk, that could really help someone. Would you agree?
Yes, that's one change
Okay.
the change that you're making. Absolutely.
Now, Dr. Bradford, did I make it up? If I went into a typical home in the Black Belt, I'd find whole milk or skim milk or somewhere in between.
Well, it depends on what house you went into. Some people don't have milk. In the black community, we got lactose intolerance. So you don't see so depends on what house you going into, you know.
It really does. It really does. That is true. You do find whole milk, but you may find oat milk.
Right.
You may
Oat
find
milk.
almond milk. Yes.
Almond milk.
Right. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. The
Oat milk.
almond milk, right?
Interesting. Okay. I know growing up, my mother had skim milk in the house and we called it blue milk. We had to have two separate milks in the house. And so these are things you grow up with and hard habits to change. But it sounds like it's possible without
absolutely.
losing. And so much of the food is tied to emotion. There's certain things that, you know, you eat or smell and you think of family.
Right. It's habit too. I mean, part of it is habit. This is what I like. This is what I eat. This is what I've grown up with. And so it's hard to change that. And that's why, Ms. Gill, thank you so much for saying, you know, incremental change, right?
All right.
I think that's very important. You don't have to go whole hog, you know, from the beginning. You know, come on, let's not do that. Let's see what's happening with the thing. Then I want to check in on
Yeah. Pull the cloud up. Pull the cloud up.
Let's put a cloud
All
up.
right. So take a
All
look,
right, look at
this
that.
here. Here we
Hopeful
go.
and blessed and grateful and motivated.
All right.
Love. I mean, that's all wonderful. You know, fried. You know, you know, energized, superhero, prevention, education, grateful, excited, hungry. Okay, you're talking about all this food. You're getting hungry. Thankful, optimistic, community, which is two words, common unity.
There you
right?
go.
Healthy, life, strong, enlightened, together, and encouraged.
That's good.
And encourage is two words, to encourage you. That's so wonderful. Encourage, right? Encourage don't means that you're unafraid. Courage means that you act appropriately in the face of fear. And so I'm glad that you are encouraged. Right? Let's take us out of this. And
Very good, very
you
good.
know, we have just a short period of time
Can you
before we
believe
have to
that?
call it a day. Let me go to Katrina Randolph, Trey's studio in the Maryland area. Hey, how are you doing?
How out thou? I miss you guys.
I miss you
so
too.
much. Happy New Year.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
This is the kind of conversation that you have in the hair salons, right?
All the
About
time.
diabetes and things like that. Okay. So you know what? I started out by saying, you know, I don't know anybody who does not know at least one person
Yes.
who suffers from diabetes, particularly in the African American community. Is that a fair statement, Katrina?
That's very fair. We hear these conversations every single day in the salon. And I wanted to commend Mr. Bradford for having the willingness to change his diet, because I was just talking to one of my clients today in regards to her husband having diabetes. And the first thing I asked her was, how is he doing? And she said, he's not doing well. And I said, have you changed his diet? And she said, not at all. So I said, well, the first thing you have to do is begin to change that diet. But a lot of times what I realized in the salon and having conversations, depending on who you're talking to, people just don't have the resources. They can't even afford to buy the healthier foods. They don't have the access to the information. They can't even see a dietitian because they don't have the proper insurance to be able to see a good dietitian, or they don't even have the transportation to get to the grocery stores. So a lot of times they stick to what they're familiar with. So yes, we have these conversations all the time. And I just encourage them all the time. Your health is your wealth, like Mr. O'Neil always said.
Absolutely.
Take care of yourself so you can live longer, have a better quality of life. So that's always my encouragement to my clients and the community. So it's always an honor to be able to share health information behind my chair.
Absolutely.
Let me just say this about Katrina. We did the first vaccine for children anywhere in the state in her salon. And again, Luminous was there as a clinical partner. And I'm saying that because we cater those events. When you come to them, they're not like going to the doctor's office. They're like going to a family reunion, Dr. McClure. We can make going to the doctor's office more like a family reunion. You get more compliance maybe. But we would cater, and in the catering, we picked healthy choices. We picked more fruits. We picked the more complex foods, not the fried. So you have to model this as well. And we try to do that in the shops.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Tell them where you are. At least let's tell them where you are, and then we'll go from
Yes, my name is Katrina Randolph. We're in the Capitol Heights area of Maryland. I have been a salon owner for over 25 years now. I've been a part of this network for over 11 years now. And it's such an honor to be able to share community health in the salon.
Thank you so
All
much.
right,
Let's
all
go
right.
to Sandra Jenkins. Go to the Philly area, at least in the area. Hey, Miss Jenkins, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year to you. I'm
Yes,
sure
yes.
that this is not an unfamiliar conversation to you as well, huh?
Not whatsoever. This conversation tonight is just really one of the best that I could ever imagine. And to be able to hear, the valuable information to share in our salon. I have been faced with a very interesting topic today, and what one of my clients shared with me today was that her daughter, who is expecting, has been diagnosed as preeclampsia. So the correlation and the understanding of how pre-diabetics, and preeclampsia are related in some way, I would like to hear maybe from one of the doctors about that, because that was a discussion topic, and it's been a discussion topic for the next several days because of the fact that her daughter has been hospitalized.
Wow.
So that was a very serious.
Let me get that answer for you right now.
Yeah.
Dr. McClone, you want to help Dr. Ritter? Both of you all can want to kind of go into that, respond to her. we got
Family, from the family doc to the OBGYN.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
they
same-
definitely can be interrelated, correlated morbidities in pregnancy, because hypertension really is diet related also in pregnancy, mostly from salt and also from sugars. But they can happen independently. But yes, you're absolutely right, Sandra, that they can be together. Sometimes in pregnancy, the sugar is just one test done at one time, and it's one value. So somebody may not be diagnosed as a gestational diabetic, but they really are acting like one because they're gaining way too much weight, even though their test said they weren't. They are functioning as one. And then the excessive weight gain can set off this process too. There is a subset of preeclampsia that is not related to weight and diet either. In some ways, we don't understand what it is, and it may be part of that autoimmune thing that we're talking about here. It's been studied and studied and studied, and no one has been able to find the answer fully yet. It's really a frustrating thing because pregnancy, I think, holds the answer to many things because we have a foreign body inside of us and we're not rejecting it. How does that happen?
Right.
It's
Right.
really amazing.
That's amazing. Dr. McClone, you wanted to piggyback on that, or?
No, I would say though that that obviously defer to our esteemed OB/GYN panelists, but certainly I just think that too, that it's just a good reminder too, just about again how lifestyle and those things can really impact us at any stage of our life in many conditions, and certainly our thoughts go out to her and her family. That that's a challenging illness, and I hope everything is okay.
Yes. And it was quite interesting to hear the mother say that she was also a diabetic. She was diagnosed many years ago. Her mother's a diabetic. You find this thing, in families that are passed on, from one generation to the next. And
Right.
to really be able to advocate and help and support and to hear these stories of our clients, because there is a definitely correlation of symptoms and signs that you see in our clients. As Dr. Ritter was saying earlier, all those signs that you see are sometimes could be very similar to symptoms of diabetes. So looking at our clients all the time and being able to assess certain physical signs, is really what we're doing to exercise, those extra, just like services that we provide for our clients.
Wellness warrior, right?
There you
That's
go.
what they
Yeah,
call it.
yeah.
Good. Thanks,
Thank
Sandra.
you. You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you.
So
All
the
right,
docs want the docs to know we have a network of these trusted information centers
Mhm.
where we're able to break it down and encourage people as they have these cues to action.
Mhm.
Let's go to Arkansas. Pine Bluff, not look little.
Get it right. Pine
Pine
Bluff,
Bluff,
Arkansas.
Dorothy Reynolds. Hey, Dorothy, how you doing? Miss Reynolds, how you doing?
Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Dorothy.
I'm doing fine. How are you all tonight?
Wonderful.
Very, very good.
And also Happy New Year. It's so glad to see you all again. I really missed you two much. In our shop, we have posters around, and the posters start a conversation. The barbers and stylists are constantly talking to the clients about the diseases and issues regarding weight gain and eating properly. And I'm so grateful for those posters. First of all, let me go back. We own Impressive Style Barbershop in Pine Bluff, and we've been open for 15 years. In July will be 15 years. they're separate buildings, but we provide family services. So, but anyway, the posters that we started displaying during COVID covered so many topics. We talked about mental health, we talked about diabetes, we talked about blood glucose, mental, so many topics. And it was all because of the information we got from the cutting edge. It's what caused it. So I'm so glad that we have this information available to us.
Thank you
And
so much. Go ahead.
I wish we had a running DVD or CD of that information that Meg just gave out regarding the body.
Well, we can do that. We can cut it out and just
Yes.
do that. We can do that and send that to you. That's good.
I love that, Dorothy,
Not
and
a
have
problem.
that row as a loop in the shop. Absolutely.
Right.
Not a problem.
It not only gives information, but it will also strike up a conversation.
Right.
Absolutely. Good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dorothy. I appreciate you.
Can
Let's
you believe
go-
how time's flying, Mayor?
Yeah,
Can you
it's
believe
it's already there, but we're gonna do our thing. We got to go to the ATL. And
Atlanta?
we got to fly out of the airport, and you can't fly out of the airport unless you go by this brother's shop, because he's in the largest, busiest airport in the world, the Atlanta airport. Andre Russell. Hey, Andre, how you doing, man?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Happy New Year, but I have a problem.
Okay.
Dr. McLeod,
Yeah.
I'm one of those promoters of tequila. I actually did a survey last year because some of our customers came in and said, I hear there's a tequila diet. And I actually found it on the internet. So
you've been on the diet ever since.
So now I'm embarrassed. I've got to go back and say, hey, you know what I was telling y'all last year? It's all wrong. And I blame it on Dr. McGlone. So he finally told us that was wrong. Yeah, there is a sugar substitute in agave, and I'm not sure how that's processed, but you're not losing any weight anyway. So, but I just want to close out with that and say hello to you guys.
Man, love you, man. Thanks so much. Good.
Thank you.
Stacy up in the Philly area, she's on cloud nine. I don't even know how she stand herself. You know, Philadelphia is in the championship, championship game, trying to get to the Super Bowl, just one away from the Super Bowl right now. You know, but they wouldn't be doing it unless they had a quarterback that came from Alabama originally, right? so we helping y'all out up there. What's happening, Stacey? How you doing?
I'm doing absolutely amazing. The topic was amazing today. I just wanted to say something really quick. Happy New Year's to everyone. But January 1st, I opened a juicing company. I have a senior center that is amazing, that's doing so many amazing things. And I have so many of my seniors that I've got them off of medication for diabetes. I am a vegan 1 year as of January 1st. I eat no processed foods. I've changed my life around. I was always borderline diabetic. I eat raw vegan, most of it, like 80%. But it's a lifestyle, it's a life change. If you want to live and live a healthy and wealthy life, you have to change what you're eating. And that's what I did. I changed my eczema. I changed everything around. So I opened a juicing company called Rejuvenate Juice. And I drink only natural juices, and I get them for my clients. And it's been changing their numbers. Doctors have been writing me saying, thank you. My seniors are losing weight and they're living.
All right.
Wow.
They're living. So this
snap it up
conversation.
and let's give us some.
Come on, snap it up.
Right.
Rejuvenate juice.
Go Eagles, go Eagles.
Yeah, I knew you was going to get that in there. Right? Yeah.
Wow.
So Doc, we're at the closing in. I saw Michelle Lamb I know that she's not on camera, but we want to recognize Michelle for her up in the Cincinnati area. Oh, she's there. Bring her
There
up.
she
Hey,
is.
hey, Michelle, how you doing? Unmute. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Good.
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, tell them where
I'm,
you
Mich-
are.
I'm Michelle Lamb. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm the owner of the Hairport Barber and Beauty Studio.
So what do you think of this conversation?
I love it because, as you guys know, diabetes sits right at my front door. My mom and my brother, who is a 57-year-old man, just had amputation done in June. So this is right at my front door. And I do a lot of research on diabetes because obviously it's hereditary in my family. And I don't want to go down that road. So yes, it's very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle Lamb. She's been with us a long time as well. Well, the clock on the wall says time to get you up out of here. Dr. T,
Wow. Can you believe it?
can you imagine that how quickly time flies? Dr. Bradford, you see what happens when you hanging out. They say time flies when you're having fun, right? Right. So thank you so much. What we have to do, we do have to think about ways to make healthy food more affordable.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that's the work we have to do.
That's right.
Because we do know what works and we know what
Yes.
does not work. And so we got some work to do. So there's a social economic component to this that we must address as well. All right, I'm gonna do a round robin, just a word or two to leave with the audience. I'm gonna start with you, Dr. Bradford.
Stay well, stay hydrated, eat your vegetables, eat your fruit. And another solution to this is coming up with these community target approaches like this one that we're doing here on the cutting edge. This makes a difference.
Okay. Dr. Mahavani, thank you so much for just sharing with me. I just want to tell you, you have such a beautiful spirit. Everybody does, but I just want to tell you that, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I would like to say 8 W words to remember. First one is water. Second one is weight loss. Third one is worship. Fourth one is walking. And then fifth one is watch out for sugars in drinks. And sixth one is walnuts. Seventh one is watermelon. And then eighth one is water chestnuts. Thank you so much. Thank you for Dr. Bradford gave me the inspiration for these things.
Oh, absolutely. That's wonderful. Good. Dr. McClone, thank you, man, for hanging out with us, fella. You really, they have a doc in the house. This is like a house call.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I just say it's wonderful to be surrounded by so many people who are interested in being advocates for health, and that's what we all can do. We all need to take care of each other. And we need to look out for each other, and this is a great way to start thinking about it. And we can all model health to each other as well, and that means demonstrating exercise, demonstrating those good habits too. So it's an absolute privilege to be here. So thank you for the opportunity.
Mayor, that spirit and valuing prevention is something that pervades at Luminous. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Absolutely. Hear a lot of great things about what you all are doing, man. So kudos to Luminous Health, right? Well, let's go to Ms. Gill, our nutritionist, our dietitian, the person who the lady who tells us exactly what we need to eat to be healthy, right?
Yeah, for our cutting edge cookbook.
That's what I'm talking about. So tell us give us a final word as we get ready to part, Ms. Gill.
Well, thank you for having me on this show. It was a pleasure to meet everybody and have this interesting conversation. I think the best thing is make one small change that you can stick with And that would be my way of saying, and that takes you to the path where Mr. Bradford went, and find that motivation that will get you to from point A to point B.
Thank you so
Very
much.
good.
Dr. Ritter, I'm gonna let you go, and then I'm gonna give Mr. Bradford, you got the last word. You see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Yeah, you know, I wanted to give you the power, man. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Ritter.
Well, I'm going to leave you with some words my mother used to tell me when I was growing up, and so wise. Food is your best medicine, and I actually use those words on my patient today. So no matter how much insulin you take and how much all that other medicine, it's not going to work unless you get your right food down. So food is your best medicine.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ritter. And the final word is with Darrell Bradford.
You got the floor,
First of
brother.
all, thank y'all for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I want to thank my sister for inviting me Tuesday. The main thing, like, stay motivated, don't give up. Because there'd be times where you might check your blood sugar and you think you did everything right that day, and then that thing still skyrockets. Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep your head high. See it through. See it through. And it's gonna be a long ride, but you can do it. You can do it. Like I said, find that motivation. If not for yourself, do it for that person.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you so
You
much.
know. So, but again, thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Let's get some snaps from Mr. Bradford. We need
Absolutely
more
good.
stories
Absolutely.
to come
Yeah,
out.
absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. T and me. Hey, man,
Hey,
Dr. T, man,
wow.
love you, man. First show of the year.
There you go.
And so what a powerful exchange. Thank you, man, for all you do, both seen and unseen, to make this thing work, right?
Honor and a pleasure.
Yeah, to all of my wellness warriors, you all know who you all are. You all have been here for us and with us. And we got a nice send off for this year, and let's keep it going. All right, Dr. T, you ready to rock and roll? Everything's good. All hearts and minds, as they say in the Baptist church, all hearts and minds are clear.
There we go.
If so, I'd like to leave you with these two words. Remember, I love you with a perfect love. But more importantly, remember this: you got the power. Until the next time on The Cutting Edge, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you next time.